Alright, so the Edge of Fate has been out for a week now, and I've got some thoughts on the DLC, and I think it's fallen into the same trap that most of the other DLC has fallen into, and that's a lack of content during the power grind. Once you've got the new exotic hand cannon, there really isn't much else to do. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the DLC, both good and bad, because I give credit where credit is due to Bungie, and they have done some fantastic work, but there is absolutely room for improvement. So let's get started. First, let's talk about the reason you probably clicked on this video. Did Bungie secretly, without telling us, sunset half the game? Because that's how it feels right now. With the dungeons and raids not being included in the portal and the Grandmaster strikes being removed, it feels like we just lost a whole bunch of content with it being replaced by a couple activities. But Bungie have said dungeons are coming in the future, hopefully in late August or early September, and they have admitted that that should have been communicated in launch that they wouldn't be included in the portal. But hopefully with those dungeons in, they also bring in raids, because the game needs its content back. Well, it never lost it, it's just kind of out of the way to find because everything seems to be pushing you towards the portal. Speaking of dungeons and raids, I am not a fan of the -10 delta. I hope when dungeons and raids do finally come to the portal that this can be removed, because at the moment it feels horrible. We spend all this time grinding power and getting to level 400 that even in the Prophecy dungeon it suddenly goes away and feels pointless. Why should I grind to 400 power when I'm just as strong in the Vault of Glass as my level 200 friend? It doesn't make sense. It also drives newer raiders and players away from raids. They see that -10 and feel like they won't be able to compete inside of an activity instead of focus on those raid mechanics. And those mechanics you don't find anywhere else in the game. I'm actually going to show this Discord message. This is a message I got today from one of my friends asking about a simple portal mission at a -10 or not even -10 delta. I'd love to be able to choose if I want to have that -10 or even -30 delta to make it like contest mode, but I don't want to be forced into it. If I want to have a full experience team, sure, let me have that contest experience. But if I'm teaching 5, 4, 3 people how a raid works, maybe their first ever raid, they might not even have the weaponry to get through a DPS check at -10, locking them out of some really well-designed and fun activities until they manage to drop a couple of the exotics that they need to get through those DPS phases. The new conquests replacing GMs leave a bit much to be desired. They're significantly easier than the Grandmasters, and they're the only activity currently in the game where power actually affects, and there's no power boost for the team. Bungie have been saying that play any activity with anyone, except for this one specific activity. It's really strange, but still, I don't want to grind power for a single activity, and then you can only do conquests once. Even if you want to help 2 friends who haven't completed it, you still can't help them. This is the most anti-co-op thing I've ever seen in a video game. And I played Elder Scrolls Online on release. Even if I can help them and not get the reward, sure, fine, but this is ridiculous. Now let's talk about the Mythic campaign. My lord, it's horrible. Not only is it filled with the most bullet-spongy enemies known to man because you're locked at 50 levels under, making your max light 220 because they're all 270, you get no rewards because you can only get those main story mission rewards once. So you spend ages doing this impossibly hard activity only because the enemies have insane amounts of health and deal insane amounts of damage. You're rewarded with like 3 planetary materials. What? Now, I think I should talk about some more positive things so this doesn't just come off like a Sweatsicle rant. I like the new weekly challenges, but I do wish there was some sort of repeatable thing so we can farm Bright Dust and XP like the Pathfinder. They have confirmed something like that is coming. That's good communication from Bungie. When? We don't know. And I also really like the portal. It's easy to jump straight into an activity, and we're actually getting story missions from Final Shape, and missions that I simply haven't played in years, because there was no real reason to play them. Last year, I never would have repeated a Final Shape story mission. The daily story was just pointless once you hit max level. So it's good to see these missions coming into rotation. They've added more variety than just strikes and battlegrounds, which we were farming last year in Vanguard Ops. And finally, the vendors. They had a good system going, and they ripped it apart. They tore it to shreds. They're just so bland now. I feel like I only visit Zavala once a week to see if he's got a decent role and a weapon that he offers for that week. And that's it. He doesn't have bounties. He doesn't really drop much. It's just those weapons and maybe some armor. I really don't like the new vendors at all. Gunsmith, I love the gunsmith. I like that he has a rotating thing where you can get different roles. He's great. Everyone else feels really bland and lackluster. But I hope they expand on them like they expanded on the gunsmith. It'd be really cool to see that. But yeah, hopefully later in the year. So those are my thoughts on the Edge of Fate as a whole DLC. I hope we see some expansion on the expansion, ironic, because this simply won't last until Renegades, or the major Ash and Iron update would need to add a ton of content, or at least be substantial. But I don't know if players are going to last until then. The Steam count's already dropping. I hope you enjoyed today's video. A massive thanks to my patrons who support my copious amounts of content that I push out. For those who didn't know, I also make TikToks and F1 shorts. I'm a man of variety.